Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name's Conrad Ashton, sometimes known as Coach Con, and returning to some long form content on YouTube. It has been a while. Been pushing more on the shorts, more on the Instagram reels, but today I want to talk about something really important, and we're going to talk about running and moreover so endurance running. So it's going to be the thing of marathons, ultra marathons, half marathons, all of which are places that I've been able to do this year. So my experience has been this year 4 half marathons, an ultra marathon and a 15-mile trail run, as well as competing in the York Super Sprint Triathlon. So over 100 competitive miles ran in around about 15 to 16 weeks. So with that, there's not been a lot of training either. So my background, particularly for the first half marathon, which was the Leeds one, I didn't train for it. I did it in 2 hours, 19 minutes, so not a great time. But it was the thing of just getting it done to say that I'd done it. So with that, it was a cause quite close to me. So it was for the Alzheimer's Society, and my grandma unfortunately passed away of Alzheimer's a couple of years prior. So it was the thing of just simply getting that done. Now, the reason I was able to do that, and I am going to deep dive into the second part of this a little bit later on. So the reason I was actually able to complete it was more so due to having a high step count. So being a PT on the gym floor, steps are really high every day, so 10,000 or more. Some days just going out for walks in general might be up to 15,000 or more. So baseline endurance kind of already there. In addition to that as well, weights 3 to 4 times a week. At the moment, it's currently 4 times. Around the time of doing the half marathon again, it was around 4 times a week. It was just a thing of put in for it and see what happens, see what I can do. Now, the second reason I've been able to complete that event and the latter events, particularly the ultra marathon, which I will touch on a little bit more as well, it's down the mental side. So for me, this might be quite dark, this might be a little bit much for some people, but for me, I was prepared to die to get that medal, to cross the finish line. Like, I would have crawled across the finish line rather than having a DNF, which did not finish. Like, I've never DNF'd, don't plan on doing it. And as long as I've got breath, I will cross that line. And that's my mentality. And I'm not saying you need to do that necessarily, but depending what event you're doing, where you're at mentally, that might be something that you need to tap into. Now, again, with this, I think it's something that isn't talked about enough, the mental side of things. The thing of, you book a marathon for fun, you might book a half for a 10K, whatever it might be, and you sort of think, oh yeah, I'm going to get fit, I'm going to do this marathon. And yes, that is amazing, and you're amazing for doing it. But it's also the mental side of things as well. There is a mental game involved, which is what I'm trying to drill home, as I don't feel it's particularly talked about. And that is, it's a little bit of a dark side. So I'm saying that potentially you may end up going that place. Now, with me, I'm not saying do this either, but I did use a little bit of self-hate as well. So for me, I've gone through a bit of a body transformation, probably more than a bit, but it's gone from being sort of over 19 stone, massively out of shape, to getting in, hopefully, fairly decent condition now of being a PT and an online coach. So with that, I was in my head still that person previously. I was thinking, I'm not going to use the language that I did, but I was calling myself, fat, whatnot. And, it was the thing of I was prepared to tap into that. And I'm not saying that use that tactic. I'm just saying that is potentially where you might go to, find yourself going, or potentially need to go to. Again, not endorsing that in the slightest. Now, obviously for these events, I didn't train. I just relied on my mentality. I relied on the fact that I'd done, a few weights, high step count, that kind of thing. But training was like non-existent. It was just the mental side of things. So I'm saying, typically for a marathon, so I'm going to use 2 examples, and they're both examples that I'm familiar with. Basically, a guy that I know from my gym, slim guy, high step count, however, does 0 weights. So he's athletic, he's not overweight, And he recently did a marathon, bless him, and he got to mile 18 before medical intervention was required, because just the endurance simply wasn't there. He didn't have the gas to do it, unfortunately, bless him. Now, so that is the thing of it's. I'm not saying you need to be super lean to run, because obviously that guy is. And I'm not saying that you need to be sort of carrying a little bit more muscle mass, like perhaps myself, but you certainly don't want to be overweight and thinking about running. I'm going to get on to why. So for me, overweight, I'm going to be very generous. I'm going to say if you're, 100 or more kilos, you shouldn't really be thinking about running. The reason for that, I'm talking about it from my own experience. Now, I'm not saying big lads or big girls can't run. It's the thing of what the joints can take. So your knees, ankles, even what your planters can take. So your plantar on the bottom of your foot, bottom of your feet, sorry. So for me, I'm sitting about roughly 90 kilos at the minute. When I did some of those events I was bridging, just due to endurance, due to the events and getting sort of the water retention, that kind of thing. I was getting anywhere between 90 to 95 between events. And I struggled with a stress fracture in here, shin splint. Originally a shin splint, it then turned into a stress fracture with a nice big lump. And also in here, there was some lumps that didn't actually get a stress fracture, but there were some nasty little eggs, as I call them, forming on that shin. Very painful, not very nice. And on the left, it was deemed to be a stress fracture by the physio. And also on top of that, I did struggle with plantar fasciitis. Despite wearing super comfy shoes like the ASICS Gel Nimbus, and I will get onto shoes as well, that was the thing of probably being 90 plus kilo and running. Again, moreover though, not really doing the training. So there was no real running training. It was the odd few mile here and there, and then it was just rock up and do the events. So train for it. So I'm going to use 2 extremes. So say you're the lean guy that I mentioned, you're probably going to need 3 to 4 months is pretty fair in order to get into shape for a marathon, because you've got no weight to lose. You maybe just need to work on the endurance, a few weights in the gym, that kind of thing, and just gradually build your miles. Now, if you're a big guy, so say you're over 100 kilo, that kind of thing, if you're someone that's lifting weights and that kind of thing, maybe 3 months. Okay, so maybe 3 months, you'll be able to just drop some weight, slowly build your miles. 3 to 4 months, I'll say again. Now, if you're a big guy who hasn't maybe done weights in a while, maybe you've never lifted weights, maybe you're well above the 100 kilo, realistically, you're looking at 9 months or more, like potentially 12 months. Like if it's a marathon you're going for, you're in deep water, and that's just me being straight. So you're potentially looking at up to 12 months in order to get in shape for a marathon. If you're a big guy, you've not lifted weights recently or ever, you need to get the weight off, and then we need to be looking to build your miles. Now, I'm by no means an expert in any of this in the running. I just go from purely my own experience. For any coaching inquiries, do drop me a message at Ashton Personal Training on Instagram. However, on with the video. So there have also been in with the injury side of things a few failures. So I set myself the target to run the Yorkshire Marathon as well, and the Leeds half, the Leeds round here half, so different to the Leeds half in May. Neither of those events were done, simply due to the injuries. So after the Great North Run, this was bearing in mind I took naproxen and codeine, had a generous sort of, big stretching session before. I took quite a lot of painkillers as well. I was in agony after 400 metres. I'm not joking, it was 400 metres on the Strava. So it was really stop-start for the first 4 miles with the stretching of the shin, and the calves, because just fatigue, because of all the miles it's been doing. So spread your events out. That's what I'm saying. Spread the events out. Really important. And again, that's endurance. That was coming down to the lack of running I'd actually been doing, not the fitness. It's just the wear and tear on the joints, the shin, so on. So again, a little bit stop-start for the first few miles, and then I really had to dig in order to get to, it was just over 2 hours, unfortunately, which was disappointing because I was going for the sub 2 hours. The reason is, I heard Jimmy Neal once did the Great North Run in around 2 hours, so I was like, if Jimmy can do 2 hours, I can. Unfortunately, Mr. Neal, who ran it probably in about the 90s, beat me, so very disappointing. But aside from that, it's the thing of slowly building your miles, and you know, again, for me, the painkillers managed to kick in. I did get through it. Now, big one, do not be relying on painkillers. It's masking. Codeine fixes nothing. Naproxen fixes nothing. Ibuprofen and paracetamol, the baby drugs, fix nothing. Like, they mask it, and it's, the damage is getting worse all the time that you're running, even whether you can feel it or not. Then after the Great North Run, it was a Raby Castle 15-mile trail, and that's kind of when I knew the running calendar was done. I was in agony. I was a little bit stop-start, and then after a mile, I was in so much pain. I had a huge lump, and the whole race was really stop-start. It was a really disappointing time. It was a tough course, I thought, very tough. The last mile because of the 3 laps we did, 3 5-mile laps, the last mile was on grass and a hill, an incline, maybe half mile, maybe I'm a bit too generous. But for argument's sake, we'll say half a mile. And yeah, I found it tough, really tough. Just for this side of thing, the endurance. So we need to be lifting weights. We need to be looking at strengthening the calves, strengthening, doing a lot of pronation training as well, so some balance training. That's going to be really important alongside doing some weights, strengthening the calves, and keeping on top of things with the physio and slowly building your miles. Recovery is so key, so stretch. If you have access to a sauna or an ice bath, do it as well. Those things, I would say, do some contrast therapy. So 20-minute sauna, 3-minute cold plunge, rinse, repeat that 3 times at one go, which is quite time consuming, but try and do that 3 times a week and you will feel some tremendous benefits. So I think that's pretty much everything covered. I hope that's touched on some points. I hope it's touched on some new points and maybe you new runners haven't sort of heard before. I hope it adds some clarity. Let me know in the comments below whether I'm on the money, whether I'm off, whether it's a load of rubbish that I've came out with, whatever it might be. Please let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. As for my future plans, the Leeds Marathon is booked in the memory of Rob Burrow, which I'm so excited about doing. Hopefully getting a lineup with Kevin Sinfield, which would be certainly dream come true, one of my sporting heroes. And the Manchester Marathon is booked. Fabulous to be doing that alongside my client Lindsay, who I'm super proud of, who also did the Great North Run with me this year, along with a couple other clients that we've got. And yeah, that's kind of it for now. I am looking at the Sandringham 24-hour endurance 100-mile race. Don't know what my coach Billy's going to say about that, but it is something that's playing in my brain, so I'd like to try and sort that as well, as I think that would just prove a point to myself, and yeah, it would look good for Instagram. But anyway, that aside, those are kind of my future plans. Any comments, hit me up below. Feel free to message on Instagram at Ashton Personal Trainer for any coaching inquiries. By no means am I a running expert. If you're looking for a running coach, I would recommend Ben Parks. He's the man for all things running and has an amazing channel here on YouTube. So, without further ado, guys, I am out and I shall see you in the next one. Thank you.